Hi folks, it's Jay. I met a couple when I gave a presentation last year. They invited me to visit their garden, but they told me there was only one time window to see it. Their garden peaks in May, well before most gardens come to life for the season. In May 2024, with many questions in mind, I drove along Lake Erie, crossed the state line, and arrived at their garden in Pennsylvania. What I saw took my breath away, an extraordinary landscape cultivated on their 200-year-old family estate, woven with remnants of the past. Their incredible collection of rhododendrons was unlike anything I had seen before. But what truly astonished me was what they told me at the end of my visit. Their approach to gardening was remarkably simple, almost effortless. And the way they have embraced their inheritance, preserving it while shaping it into something even more extraordinary, left me in awe. This is Grimshaw Glen, tended by Chas and Karen. I am here with the gardener, Chas and Karen. Can I see your garden?
Please come.
Can you tell us a little bit about the history of the property?
This is some ruins. Property's been in the family since 1857. And there was a woolen mill here that was built in 1848. And so the Grimshaw family came from Leeds, England. Leeds was big in textiles in England. And so they came here and ran the woolen mill until it burned in 1883 and put 30 people out of work. And then the Grimshaws mainly did some farming. And then because of all the grapes and the fruit here, they started a cider mill, and that lasted a few years. And then in 1906, they started a winery because of all the grapes.
This is almost like the entire history of America on this property, from the immigration to the prohibition.
Prohibition shut them down in 1919. Supposedly, the federal agents came here and dumped 50,000 gallons of wine down the stream.
What we're looking at is the ruin from the
winery.
The winery, I see. Completely covered with ivy. Even though it's a ruin of a building, but incorporated into your garden in such a beautiful way.
So this is English ivy too, so whether it came from England, we think that they brought some plants from England.
Please come follow the
I will follow you.
path here.
Wow. This is amazing. So what we are looking at is another remnant from the building of the winery, which is the chimney. And then up the hill, it's the ruin of another building on the top of the hill.
That they said was where they fermented the grape juice to turn it into wine. And then they had, their source of power was water. And over here by my burn pile, they diverted the creek to turn the water wheel to make the power. And then in the wintertime, they built the chimney, and there was a boiler that we'll see later to make steam energy. And then right through here is where the water went back out towards the creek.
The long area we're looking at in front of us, this used to be the foundation of the building.
Correct. This is a rectangle warehouse. And so the ruins, of course, have come down since I was a child. This is my grandparents' home, and I was the only boy in our family. And so I came down and helped my grandmother at that time with her fruit and her mowing and so on.
I say gardening from a very young age.
Right.
Can we take a look at this magnificent double 5 viburnum?
This was one of 3 that was given to us. It's very beautiful, and the berries in the fall are excellent.
Very bright red berry,
Right,
and the
right.
birds absolutely love them.
Correct.
And also the leaf turning to an orange color in the.
That's correct. It has good fall color.
And in the winter, I know there are people particularly appreciate their form, this horizontal branches, very, very graceful. Interest for 3 seasons. Well, look at the ivy-covered remnant.
Then with the chimney here, we try to get some vines growing up it. This is lace vine. We try to do Dutchman pipe vine because there's a butterfly that we would like to host, but we've already tried 2 of them. They need full sun and so on, but it doesn't grow well. See, if you look on here, this is part of a vat, a metal vat, and so we put some of our mint in there.
Well, that's a good way to grow mint.
Yeah.
To really keep them contained. So I see you have another very special viburnum here. Karen, can you tell us a little bit about this variety?
That's called popcorn, and it is a David Leach hybrid.
Yeah, in front of the popcorn viburnum, you have this very special...
That's a Venus dogwood out of Rutgers, their hybrid program.
Beautiful.
And this was from the rhododendron convention.
I see.
At one of the plant sales at the very end, there was 2 of them left over, and so we got a steal of a deal.
That's a great find. Yeah, I have been trying to find the Venus dogwood for quite a long time without success.
We didn't mention about our Japanese maple there. That is a witch's broom. You can see that the color is slightly different than the traditional one, and then the shape and growing size
I see.
reflects the fact that it is off of a witch's broom.
This is in a pot for about 10 years until we found a place for it.
And I like how you use different colored foliage along with those conifers in this very colorful composition
Why,
all
thank you.
season long.
And this one's supposed to be one of the bluest blues
Oh, I see.
for
The blue spruce.
yeah.
You have the blue from the blue spruce, then the yellow from the spirea, then that's a juniper, right, in the middle. Then you have the Japanese maple. So really, almost every color from the rainbow, you have it here.
And since it's an industrial site, an old mill site, if we're going to buy any yard art, usually it's going to be industrial type of things that you might find in a mill.
They really do add a lot of character to a garden. We're visiting in mid-May, which is the peak season for the rhododendrons. You have a breathtaking display. So many different color, texture, and the pattern.
Especially this year with 80-degree temperatures in March, we're at least a week early.
I see.
Usually we tell people Memorial Day weekend, and this is a week before that. And you're seeing part of the bog garden, which is the tail race that goes, once the water is used to turn the mill wheel, it goes back out to the creek, which you'll see shortly. So the house is my grandparents' home. My grandfather built it. Matter of fact, the family said he cut the oak down and he planed it on the property, built the house in stages.
Which part would you say is the original part?
Well, this would be original, but they started with a very small central part of
Footprint, yeah.
Yes, and then as they were able, they added to the back, they added to the front, they even added to the second story.
I see. Can we take a look at the patio area? What do you have here right by the house?
That's a winterberry. And winterberry should be in full sun, but we saw how beautiful the winterberry is with the red berries and so on. And they do quite well here. Matter of fact, we had to cut them back several times. But, and they're loaded with berries on most years. And we found out that this is a good source when the robins come up.
An early batch of robins will come and use all the berries for food.
Yeah,
I
they'll
see.
strip this clean in a couple days before the worms come out of the ground.
This is such a beautiful view from this patio. You can see 270 degrees of the garden.
Since we build the pergola here, we eat as much as we can out here in the spring and summer and fall.
I see.
And right now there's a lone male turkey that walks by every day.
A turkey. I see.
Right past us.
Beautiful.
Someone said it's sort of like organized wilderness. And so basically the first few years we just cut back, because it hadn't been taken care of after my grandmother died. And so then we started probably in the mid-70s we started adding to them. But many of them have stories, like this one right here. This is a red. This is our only rose. And so this is supposedly a cutting from my aunt's wedding bouquet. And she was married June 16th. And so on June 16th, all of these are in full bloom. And we found out that we had a black walnut tree that we had cut down. And so there was a woodworker nearby, and he made black walnut bowls that we gave my sisters. Now we call some of these, when we cut it down, a witness tree, because the tree has witnessed many years
of our family.
And I love this this approach for gardening. So you mentioned organized wilderness.
The poppies may be a case in point as well. They grew here from the day we moved here, but I cannot move them. They come back on their own, they grow where they will, and we just enjoy them.
Yeah, I know. They almost have a mind of their own.
As you're crossing, this is a Don Redwood. We heard the story. It was rediscovered in China in 1941, I think it was, and the seeds were taken to Harvard. So now they're very plentiful in arboretums on the East Coast. This one was too big at a plant sale. It didn't fit in people's small cars, but we had a station wagon, so it's about 10 foot, and that's why we got it for about half the price of a 6 foot or so.
This is the time for the bleeding heart.
We were told that these were not native, but they come up like weeds.
They've been quite prolific. When you hear the creek, it is a constant flowing creek. It's spring-fed. Its origins are not very far from here, and of course it ends up in Lake Erie, but it makes for a very cool temperature water, and there have been times when the Fish Commission will stock through this creek because the temperature is consistent.
I see.
So the fingerlings, when they take them from the nurseries further down state, they dump them here, and it turns the stream black because of all the 20,000 fish, but the kingfishers and the great blue herons, they just love it.
I can imagine. It's like an open buffet for them. Karen, I see under this huge tree you have a lot of hellebores, so they survive the dry shade pretty well.
Oh yes, they do quite well in it. And they are multiplying rapidly here. You might also notice the trillium right there. That's quite a specimen of trillium. And I'm not really sure what variety it is.
Yeah, usually I see trillium in white color.
Yes.
But this is almost a burgundy.
And it lasts for quite a while.
I see.
Unlike the other ephemerals that may last 3 days,
I know.
it could last and bloom for a month.
And I noticed you use the pine straw as the mulch. So what's the practice?
In the fall, we rake up under a pine tree.
In another area of your garden.
And save those pine needles while they're still clean and not contaminated by other leaves.
Right.
Box them up, store them, and come and use that mulch the next spring.
This is such a good way. You're using material from your garden. In addition to the hellebore, you have a lot of hosta. What is this one with the white flower?
This is a sedum, but it is a native sedum. Purchased that from Holden Arboretum, and they were selling quite a few natives, and I think it's a very wonderful one.
Yeah.
It seems to do well in the shade, where other sedums seem to need more sun.
Well, you have a huge shade garden in this area under the canopy of
That's a tulip tree, and this is a pecan tree.
pecan, I see.
Yes.
And then you have the huge rhododendrons providing the backdrop. This is just spectacular.
The native plant green and gold is out right now as well, and then there's some native ginger next to that.
Usually we see those glossy leaf ginger. Those are European.
Yes.
So those would be the native variety.
The hosta in yellow kind of steals the show in the spring. That's
Yes.
called on stage.
I see.
And it will grow a little bit fuller, but the color is eye-catching.
Yes. It is kind of a glowing under the sun.
So this is the main garden area in the backyard where you have your huge rhododendron collection. But before we go check out all the rhododendrons, I noticed this majestic Japanese maple.
Came to us in a Dixie cup about 45 years ago, as did many of our plants. That was when we were starting to garden, but we also had 4 small children.
Yes.
And so many of our plants came to us as gifts from other people and now have given us a great blessing of beauty and enjoyment.
It's beautiful. I noticed you have quite a few plants you are growing from containers in this area.
Yes. Again, this is an industrial site and there is some cement for a well here, but also we have been having problem with the voles and the hostas.
They do a lot of damage.
Yes. And when they damage a plant, they kill it. So, so many of the things do well in a larger pot.
They elevate all those plants, make them quite special. But this looks like something very different.
This is a Canada lily, and it's glistening in the sun right now after the heavy dew. And it will bloom about mid-June. They have always grown here. We don't seem to be able to move them too well. And we found them in a picture, and we were able to document Chaz's parents' reception. They were photographed next to the blooming Canada lily, which does bloom every year on their anniversary.
Wow, that's a very special story. When would they bloom?
Mid-June.
Mid-June, at the time of Chaz's parents' anniversary.
Yes, and the reception that was held here in the garden.
It's such a profound connection, family history with the land. I can hear all the birds singing, so relaxing.
It is. A lot of wrens you'll hear. I don't hear the orioles right now, but usually they're out in the morning as well.
I see.
And the phoebe will sing us a song quite early in the morning.
So Chaz, a lot of the rhododendrons you started from cutting.
Basically, once this grows, you take in September, you take a cutting here and you measure it and you put rooting hormone on it. And I use the nearing frame. That's an old-fashioned way to propagate.
So this is what you would call softwood cutting.
Yes.
Correct. So all of these I did cuttings on. This is County of York. This is Holden right over here.
Chaz, can you tell us a little bit about this variety, this pink one? It's very, very delicate, the petal.
Well, this was a series. There is someone in Cleveland. His name is Tony Sciamarello. And he took a Yaku Samanum crosses. So this is called Yaku Court. There is a Yaku Prince, Princess, Dutch, Duchess,
King and Queen.
King and Queen.
So I assume this is coming from Japan, this variety?
Yeah, the parent plant was from Japan, and it was the hottest thing in 1950 because it was good to 25 below zero.
Oh, it's very cold hardy.
This is Calsap. I didn't know it was going to get this big.
This is the spectacular. And I noticed they have this kind of a upright
Correct.
habit. So this area seems a little bit more shady than the other area. They still have this profusion of bloom.
Well, some can take more sun, but usually they say the best place to plant a rhododendron is in the northeast corner of your house. If you plant it on the south side in full sun, it's going to struggle.
In nature, the rhododendrons seem to grow best on the edge of the woods. It benefits from some light, but also from some shade. Also the protection from the wind, also a little bit moisture environment.
This looks very different than all the other rhododendrons.
Took me a long time before I appreciated the deciduous azaleas, because usually I noticed that they had a lot of mildew, but there's the University of Minnesota that has hybridized them with beautiful colors and
Hardiness as well.
Deciduous azalea, they're native to North America. Is that the case?
Yes.
the one right behind you, this is a vasii. When we had a convention down in Asheville, North Carolina, we got on the bus and we traveled in the Smoky Mountains to try to find this in nature. In the wintertime, this little area here, I usually have a fence around it because the deer would love these.
You're looking at our Magnolia macrophyllum. The leaves will grow to be even larger than what you see now. The flowers are wonderful. It is the largest single leaf, the largest flower native plants of North America.
This do have a very exotic look, like it's from the time where dinosaurs are still on Earth.
I think landscapes hold memories. Snow that falls and melts, flowers that bloom and fade, and rivers that flow for millions of years. They become ancient dialogues, etched into the land. The marks we left as humans are the newest and the most fleeting entries in this conversation. But some among us who listen more closely and understand the wisdom the land tells us, and they were able to create a poetic way of living and become a guardian of our extraordinary landscape. Even before I had seen the entire garden, I found myself wondering, how were they able to cultivate something this beautiful? I couldn't resist but asking Chess and Karen for their secret at the end of my visit. I expected intricate techniques, but their approach was surprisingly simple, almost effortless, as if they had learned to listen to the landscape and follow its rhythm rather than impose their own.
This rhododendron here was one of the two original on the property when we came, and this is native to Pennsylvania. It's a maximum. It should be loaded with blooms on July 4th. It's a white one.
So it's a late blooming variety for rhododendron.
Correct.
This is, we now call the bog garden, but is the slough off of the water power. We have leucojum blooming from mid-spring on. It's a bulb that enjoys wet feet. Very few do. We encourage the spice bush as it volunteers here, hoping that we'll get to see some of that butterfly.
Yes, the spice bush is a very important host plant for many caterpillars.
And I did plant one pot of petasites here a few years ago.
Just one.
Yes.
It has already covered almost in the entire area of the bog on this side of the bridge. But they have this beautiful variegation glittering under the sun. Just beautiful. We have another huge double five viburnum in the backdrop.
And this rhododendron here, this is a strange one because it blooms in the fall and also blooms in the spring.
Oh, it's a blooming variety.
Yeah, but I don't know if it's supposed to do that. But you can see a lot of these buds are called blasted. Mm-hmm. They have not produced anything this year.
Oh.
And if you break them open, you can see that they just are all black, and so.
Yeah, it's quite unique. So you are saying some of the buds, they would produce the flower, but some wouldn't.
Right. For some reason. These pink ones here are all across of my neighbors who's passed away. We call them Doc Ailes, and he used catabiense, which is a native from down in Smoky Mountains, times Mrs. Furnival, and he never got them named. They're my wife's favorite pink.
Yes, the color is just stunning.
And there's a little bonus in the fact that they're mildly fragrant.
Yes.
As I'm standing downwind here, not very many rhododendron have fragrance.
Beautiful. So when they are in bud, they have this deeper color. When they open, you notice the more pale pink inside of the petals. Then they have a little bit of a white and yellow in the center. Mm-hmm. Exquisite. But this is just spectacular. You have the rhododendrons to set the foundation and also the backbone. And you add companion plants like ferns, hostas, and Bernera, yes, they're all shade-loving plants, but they provide different color and texture to give the contrast to the rhododendron. Just beautiful. I love the pink from the rhododendrons right next to the blue from the Bernera. Just such a nice contrast.
This area here, when I first started propagating rhododendrons, I would put the small ones here to grow out, but then they got too big to dig up, and that's how I got good sections of the garden. Usually they say the best rhododendrons are in cemeteries. Oh. And it could be because of the fertilizer, I don't know.
But people leave them alone there.
Yes. Yeah, they leave them alone, and if
they grow, they grow.
And the landscapers and the caretakers in the cemetery might trim them up and then they turn into trees. But sometimes we've seen them cut all the way down and then small ones come up from the roots.
So on the other side of this passage, you have another dawn redwood here, but this looks different.
Yes, it's the golden variety of the dawn redwood.
They retain this color pretty well throughout the summer.
Yes, it does.
The chartreuse color foliage, they go almost with any color and brings every color in your garden together.
It kind of makes it look like there's sunshine.
But this looks like a special variety that we're looking at.
Well, this is the Catabiense by Mrs. Furnival. I have a lot of them over there. Those are some of the taller ones. And this is the cross that my neighbor made. First started, I would help him out. I would order the plants from the West Coast, and they would be delivered here. Then I would sneak them up the hill so his wife didn't know.
This is another Venus dogwood.
Another Venus dogwood.
This has a more open shape and
Yes.
It's so graceful. And I noticed you planted at the edge of this looks like a...
Oh, that's an oak tree. Friends of ours picked up acorns at the Senator's Garden in Washington, D.C. Sprouted it, and now we have this.
Wow,
yes.
this is amazing. Let's take a closer look. So Venus is one of the cultivar from the Rutgers dogwoods,
Yes.
known for their enormous flower. So how long have you had this?
Purchased 10 years ago.
This is about 20 feet tall.
Correct.
Karen, I noticed you have a row of hosta over there. Very special.
This one here is called Millennium and known for its size. And it is probably not even yet full grown for the season. It will get even a little bit larger. And the leaves are very thick and corrugated, so it's resistant to slugs.
I see.
There's a couple of other seedling hybrids here. There is another favorite, and this is Bridal Falls. And you can see the deep veining and the water even coming down that veining and just kind of shedding off the plant. This is a black gum, and I think it's Firelight. It has fire in the name, and it
For the
gets...
new growth on the leaves,
Yes.
I assume.
And for the color it attains in the fall. Very spectacular. And it's a good plant in an urban area as well. It doesn't seem to have much in the way of messy habit. The shade on this side comes from a silver bell tree.
Oh,
It's quite wonderful in the spring. Lots of bell-shaped white flowers. And the most fun is to come and stand under the tree and kind of look up at the flowers. That's a native as well. Probably more for North Carolina, that area.
so we're in zone 6 here, bordering zone 7.
Yes.
So Jay, we have a special plant here. This one's called Kanjanic. But this is a Yakusamanum. And if you can tell because of the leaf, it's almost like a little wool indemendum under the leaf. And so this is originally from, the species originally from one side of one mountain in Japan.
I see.
And so this is spectacular 2 weeks ago. It came out pinkish and then it turns pure white.
So you mean when they were in buds, they are pink, and they turn white? Wow.
Well, the bud is hot pink. The flower opens in a medium pink.
I see.
And then it keeps fading. Every day you could come and look at it and see a slightly different plant. The new growth on it is also pretty spectacular. You'll see some places over there where it has sort of that indamentum on the new growth. You can just start to see some of the new spots there.
Yes.
It has a great plant habit. They rate this as a 5-5.
They have this more compact form.
So the habit is a 5 because it's low growing, spreads out, and the flower is a 5 also.
Because
So
of the change of the color, the interest.
Right.
I see.
And
So-
the profusion of the bloom.
there's not too many rhododendrons that are a 5-5.
I see. This is such a wonderful variety.
So if you see a Kanjanic, it's worth the money. There's always plant sales at any convention, just that they're long. And usually at the end of the day on Fridays or Saturdays, and usually when you're exhausted. But more likely you're not going to find it at the big box stores.
I know, yeah. So I see another dawn redwood.
Dawn redwoods are fast growing, and this one definitely is. It's quadrupled the height in about 15 years. And now we're going back over the bog and another bridge. Oh, off to the north, you can see the boiler that was used in the industry here that goes along with the chimney. You needed to get the smoke out of the valley, so the chimney's high enough so when you used coal.
How come it ended up in this bog area?
Well, that's a good question.
There's a lot of questions we would like to have answered by another generation.
This just adds a sense of mystery to the whole landscape.
Every time we learn things here and there over the years, we said, "Where's Grandpa?"
What is this large leaf plant with this purple underside?
Ligularia.
Oh,
Yes,
that's a
I'm
type-
sorry.
Oh, so that is
Yes.
a type of Ligularia.
Yes, it is.
Do they get the yellow flower?
Yes, and this one is not the spike kind. It's the one that blooms more like a yellow daisy.
I mean, the leaf, they are extraordinarily large. Yeah.
And what you see here is skunk habit that grows real well on the property. The bloom probably takes place in about early February. It attracts the only insect that's out then is some sort of a fly.
Oh,
So the smell, the bad smell, attracts the appropriate pollinator early in the spring, and it is thermogenic. So the blossom will actually melt the snow around it.
oh, wow, that's interesting.
Yes.
Of course, there's no leaves at that time of year, but it's almost like a jack in the pulpit. It has like a little hood,
Yeah. Oh,
a little pulpit in there. And then there's also the birds. Had one tour one time, and the lady said, "There's so many birds here."
yes.
And we have the stream, of course, that they like to take their little showers in.
I mean, you're creating a habitat for all the birds and also the insects. So we just made a circle. We're going to take a look at the other side of the garden.
Well, this is actually a private road. Years ago, in the early 1900s, when they had trolleys and they didn't have the cars yet, they had little spurs off to go to the lake to get the ridership in the weekends. And so there's actually there was a little amusement park at the end of this road, right along the lake. They had a water slide going into the lake. They had a dance hall. They had 4th of July contests and so on. So trolleys went by the wayside about 1940 because most everyone had cars by that time.
I see. Another interesting story
Right.
for the property. Yeah.
And so supposedly when the trolley went back up, it would stop here at the Grimshaw Winery, and my grandfather would put bottles of wine on the trolley to take back into town for the people that wanted his wine. And they said his wine was very good.
This is such an amazing property, and I love all the stories behind that.
And so we do have a couple postcards with the prices. When we did research on my family, we think the peak earning year was probably 1915
I see.
because he bought a 1915 Cadillac.
Oh,
And but then only a few short years later, things went downhill, and then he went into work at a foundry in town.
I see.
But this is another one of the Catabians by Mrs. Furnival. I had a number of these along here.
Almost like a privacy hat.
Yeah.
So stunning. Yeah.
And Karen and our daughter used to deadhead them all.
Well, that's a big job. That
until they got up to the top step of the step ladder, and then they said, "This is crazy."
Do you think it will make a big difference with that heading?
No, they did a study in David Leach Research Center, which is in North Madison, Ohio, and they deadheaded everything when he was alive, and then they found out it makes no difference whatsoever. It saved them $8,000 to pay people to deadhead. Supposedly, you'd get a better bloom the next year, but we found out that that's not true.
I would say it's a housekeeping issue. If the spent
Flower bothers you
Yes.
visually,
Yes.
then you would do that. But
Right.
it wouldn't make too much of a.
no.
And I would imagine rhododendron, when they grow in the wine, no one is going to
No
deadhead them.
one's kidding.
Yeah, and they bloom anyway. I think you just mentioned that you don't really prune them and you don't fertilize them. And, and you just let them do their thing.
When I planted them, the old timer told me to rake up oak leaves and compost oak leaves. Put that in the backfill, and that's the correct acidity for the rhododendrons. And so I used to rake up someone else's lawn because they had all oak trees, and then compost them for a couple years.
What would be your advice or tip to start growing rhododendron?
Siting them is important. They do not like wet feet, but they like moisture.
Yeah.
So they don't want all-day sun or wind, but they do like some brightness and some shade as well.
So even if you have too much clay, then you make raised beds.
And pH would be a factor as well. You have to have a slightly acidic soil as well, or amend your soil. Amend it at planting, and then possibly, along the way. But of course, the most successful will be where the soil is always the right pH for it.
Obviously, you have a passion for garden and also plant, not just the rhododendrons. What really started your interest in gardening and plants?
Well, I grew up on a farm, and so we did a garden for vegetables, but the story is when we got married, we were stationed down near Washington, D.C. and Baltimore, and going through some of those suburbs in Washington, D.C., I saw azaleas for the first time. All the colors were very stunning, and so when we came back to this house, my grandmother's house, my mother said, well, you got a neighbor that knows how to propagate. Go up and talk to him. So I went up over the hill, and he got me started. I'm very thankful for Doc Ailes.
A mentor that was really friendly and shared some plants with us, as well as his knowledge.
From your passion on plants and garden, what kind of impact they had on your life?
We have 3 sons and a daughter, but the sons are particularly into the science. And he always thought of his grandmother's home as a Garden of Eden. They always knew that things seemed to grow better here. And family members will come and remember visiting here and thinking, oh, how wonderful and green it was. And we can tell that as they traveled, they probably brought plants back with them. That's how gardening started a long time ago.
I see.
You acquired a plant from a friend, from a neighbor, a relative that was a different plant than you had around. And so they put it in the Garden of Eden, and evidently most things grew.
Yes.
And when my cousins come back, which isn't too often, they're out in the Rocky Mountain states and so on, they say, oh, thank you for preserving our home, the grandparents' home. So it's a learning process, and we're glad we can do it.
I have to say this garden is one of the best private gardens I have ever been to. It's not just the rhododendron, you're preserving the history of the family.
Well, thank you.
You're very gracious.
This is the Greenshaw Glen Garden by Chas and Karen. Thank you so much for sharing your garden with us.
You're
Thank
quite
you
welcome.
for coming.